Welcome to my channel, Worldwise. You need to watch this if you struggle with believing in the power of the human spirit. This is a story about survival against all odds, where the human spirit is tested to its very limits. Our story begins in a place that can only be described as hell frozen over, Cape Dezhnev, Siberia. This remote outpost is a land of extremes, where the environment itself seems to conspire against life. This wasn't just any prison. It was a lead mine, a gulag at the easternmost edge of a vast, unforgiving continent. Here, the harshness of the land was matched only by the brutality of the regime. The cold here is a physical enemy, seeping into your bones, making every breath a struggle. Temperatures plummet to unimaginable lows, where exposed skin freezes in seconds. The air itself feels like shards of glass cutting through flesh. The landscape is a brutal expanse of white, endless snow, jagged ice, and a wind that howls like a hungry wolf. It is a place where nature shows no mercy. Escape wasn't just difficult, it was considered a death sentence. The vast, frozen wilderness was an impenetrable barrier. The prisoners, mostly German soldiers captured after the war, were ghosts in this frozen wasteland. Their spirits were as broken as their bodies. Their days were a grueling cycle of back-breaking labor in the dark, toxic mines. Each swing of the pickaxe was a battle against despair. Malnutrition was rampant, with meager rations barely staving off starvation. Disease spread like wildfire, claiming lives with ruthless efficiency, and the guards ruled with an iron fist, their cruelty adding to the prisoners' suffering. The sheer scale of Siberia was the greatest prison wall of all. It was a desolate, unending expanse that swallowed hope. To even think of escape was to embrace madness. The thought of freedom was a cruel joke in such a place. This was the world Clemens Forel was thrown into, a world where every day was a fight for survival. The authorities believed that Cape Dezhnev was the end of the line, a place from which no one returned. It was a final destination for the condemned. But in the heart of one man, a different word was taking root: home. Clemens Forel dared to dream of a life beyond the ice and snow. In the midst of this crushing despair stood Clemens Forel. While many of his fellow prisoners had surrendered to their fate, a fire burned within Forel. He had made a promise to his wife and children that he would return, and this promise became his anchor. Forel was a keen observer, studying the guards and learning the rhythms of the camp. He began to see the land not as an enemy, but as a challenge to be understood. His determination was a quiet, intense force. Every meager meal was fuel for the journey ahead. He forced himself to stay physically strong, enduring the brutal labor by focusing his mind on his ultimate goal. This wasn't about blind optimism, it was about calculated survival. He was Clemens Forel, and he was going home. The first attempt was born of desperation and raw courage. Forel, along with a fellow prisoner, saw a fleeting opportunity during a blinding snowstorm. With stolen scraps of food and inadequate clothing, they slipped away into the blizzard. The storm that was meant to be their cover became their cage, disorienting them. Their freedom was short-lived. They were tracked down within days, exhausted and frostbitten. The recapture was brutal, and they were made an example of. Forel was beaten mercilessly and thrown into solitary confinement. The physical punishment was terrible, but the reaction from his fellow prisoners was worse. They saw his attempt as reckless, bringing collective punishment upon them all. When released, he was met with cold shoulders and angry glares. This failure could have broken him, but for Forel, it was a crucible. He now understood his mistakes and knew he would try again. Next time, he would be smarter, stronger, and better prepared. In the darkest corners of the gulag, where hope was a rare and precious thing, a flicker of humanity could sometimes be found, even in the most unexpected places. For Clemens Forel, that glimmer of compassion came in the form of the camp doctor, Dr. Heinz Stauffer, a man whose presence would change the course of his fate. Stauffer, himself a German prisoner, was trapped by the same barbed wire and bitter cold, but his medical skills afforded him a slightly different status among the captives and guards alike. He watched Forel closely, quietly admiring his unbreakable spirit and determination, even after the crushing disappointment of a failed escape attempt. But Dr. Stauffer was fighting his own battle. He was dying from an incurable cancer, a secret he bore alone, hidden beneath layers of stoicism and duty. Knowing his days were numbered, Stauffer made a fateful decision. He would help Clemens Forel escape, risking not only his own fragile life, but the little security he had left. The doctor began to quietly aid Forel, smuggling extra food to keep up his strength, and officially declaring him unfit for the brutal labor in the mines, shielding him from the worst of the camp's punishments. He provided Forel with a compass and painstakingly drew maps from memory, charting a possible route through the endless Siberian wilderness. Stauffer taught him how to identify edible plants, how to find water beneath the snow, and how to avoid the deadly frostbite that claimed so many lives in the unforgiving cold. As a final, deeply personal gesture, Dr. Stauffer entrusted Forel with a small metal cylinder containing morphine, his own last reserve, meant for moments of unbearable pain or as a last resort. When the time was right, the doctor orchestrated a convincing medical emergency, creating a diversion that sent guards and prisoners alike into a frenzy. In that brief, chaotic window, Clemens Forel slipped away from Cape Dezhnev for the second time, vanishing into the blizzard and darkness. He carried with him not only the tools for survival, but the hopes and trust of a dying man, a burden and a blessing as he ventured into the vast white unknown. This act of defiance, born from courage and compassion, became Dr. Stauffer's enduring legacy, a final gamble for freedom, paid for with everything he had left to give. This time, Forel was not just running, he was hunting for survival. He plunged into the vast, silent expanse of the Siberian tundra. The cold was a relentless predator, constantly seeking a way through his meager clothing. Every step was a battle, pushing through deep snow that sapped his energy. His first weeks were a blur of cold, hunger, and fear. He learned to read the landscape and navigate by the sun and stars. Resourcefulness became his creed. He hunted small game with makeshift traps, celebrating a caught Arctic hare as a feast. He was living on the absolute edge, a primal existence. With every sunrise he survived, his resolve hardened. Slowly, painfully, but undeniably, he was moving west. As the season shifted, Forel reached the coastline. Starvation was becoming a critical threat. He spotted a colony of seals on the ice floes. Armed with desperation, he managed to kill a seal, a victory that felt monumental. The meat provided vital calories, and the blubber gave him fuel for a fire. Pushing inland, he stumbled upon a group of gold prospectors. They offered him food and shelter, a temporary reprieve. However, this brief sanctuary was shattered by betrayal. Two prospectors attacked him, intending to kill him. Forel fought back and escaped, but not before being wounded. The incident was a harsh reminder of the dangers in this land. Once again, he was alone, injured, and on the run. The betrayal reinforced the profound isolation of his journey. Just when it seemed his luck had run out, Forel was found by Siberian hunters. These men, part of the indigenous Evenki people, showed him profound kindness. They nursed him back to health and taught him their ways of survival. As he prepared to continue his journey, the hunters gave him supplies and a sled dog named Arctur. The bond between man and dog was formed instantly. Arctur was not just a pet, he was a partner in survival. With Arctur by his side, Forel's journey was transformed. The crushing loneliness was gone, replaced by quiet companionship. Together they traveled through the forests and across the steppes. This act of kindness from strangers had not only saved Forel's life but also renewed his hope. He was ready to face the next most dangerous phase of his escape. After nearly 2 years, Forel and Arctur reached the Trans-Siberian Railway. This was a major milestone, but also a place of immense danger. He needed to board a train heading west without being detected. A fellow German offered to help in exchange for gold, but betrayed him to the authorities. As police closed in, Arctur sensed the danger. The dog attacked an officer, creating a diversion for Forel to escape. Forel scrambled onto a departing freight train, leaving his brave friend behind. The sacrifice of his loyal companion weighed heavily on him. He was now truly alone again, a fugitive hurtling towards an uncertain future. The price of freedom was devastatingly high. The train carried Forel west, but his journey was far from over. The vast, icy expanse of Siberia was just the beginning of his perilous escape. He was now a fugitive deep within Soviet territory, constantly evading capture. For the next year, he lived in the shadows, constantly on the move, surviving on his wits and sheer determination. He encountered both the best and worst of humanity, Some offered him shelter and food, while others turned him away or threatened him. A Jewish man in Iran, who had himself escaped persecution, arranged for a fake passport, a lifeline in Forel's desperate situation. With the fake passport, Forel made his way south, towards the border with Iran, each step bringing him closer to freedom. The final leg of his journey was a tightrope walk over a chasm of failure, where one misstep could mean capture or death. At the border crossing, the Soviet officer was the former warden of Cape Dezhnev, a man who knew Forel's face all too well. Their eyes met, and with a slight nod, the officer stamped the passport, a silent acknowledgement of Forel's struggle. Forel walked across the line, from the Soviet Union into Iran, a free man at last. After more than 8,000 miles and 3 years of hell, Clemens Forel wept. He had made it, against all odds. On December 22, 1952, he arrived by train in Munich, the end of his long and arduous journey. He was finally, emotionally, reunited with his waiting family, the reunion he had dreamed of for years. The promise had been kept, and Forel could finally embrace the freedom he had fought so hard to achieve. If you want more incredible true stories, check out my next video, Watching Now.